Some moments expose more than a crime. They reveal how a person believes the world should bend for them. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to see how far this conversation is reaching. The courtroom had been settled into its usual rhythm. Papers rested neatly on desks. Shoes scraped softly against polished floors. The quiet held the weight of routine, the kind that comes from decades of rules being followed without question. Then the doors flew open, not cautiously, not respectfully. They burst inward with the confidence of someone who has never learned to knock. Madison Reese Ashford entered as though she were stepping into a private showroom curated exclusively for her arrival. At 21, she carried herself with the effortless certainty of someone raised in rooms where mistakes were quietly erased and apologies were handled by someone else. Her arms were heavy with shopping bags, each one a declaration rather than a necessity. Luxury labels faced outward, unmistakable and intentional. A pristine white Hermès Birkin rested on her arm, untouched by wear or worry. It gleamed under the courtroom lights like an artifact from another universe, one where price tags replaced accountability. Her outfit completed the message. Designer fabric draped perfectly. Heels struck the floor with a sharp echo. Diamonds caught the light with every small movement, flashing reminders of a life insulated from consequence. The jewelry alone represented months of groceries, rent, and survival for families who would never sit at tables like hers. Yet the room did not react to the wealth alone. It was her voice. Madison was on her phone, speaking loudly, laughing casually, unconcerned with where she stood. Her words carried across the room without restraint, wrapped in the ease of someone who had never been corrected. "He will deal with it," she said. "He always does." People turned, heads lifted. Eyes followed her path in disbelief. The bailiff stepped forward. He had seen arrogance, fear, desperation, and remorse in equal measure over the years. His voice was steady, practiced, and patient. "Ma'am, you need to end the call." Madison did not look at him. She lifted one finger, a silent command to wait, and continued speaking as if no one else mattered. "I was in the middle of shopping," she said into the phone. "Now I have to deal with this court thing." Judge Frank Caprio looked up. His expression did not change. His tone did not rise. Yet the authority in his voice carried through the room without effort. "Ms. Ashford, end the call." She glanced toward the bench as though noticing him for the first time. "One moment, Your Honor." "Important." That word landed heavily. Important compared to what? Compared to law? To order? To the people waiting patiently for their turn? The temperature in the room shifted. A man in the gallery shook his head slowly. A woman crossed her arms, jaw tightening. Madison sighed dramatically, speaking into her phone one final time. "I have to go. I am in court." "Yes, I know. So annoying." She dropped the phone into her bag and scanned the room with thinly veiled boredom. Then, without hesitation, she placed her shopping bags on the defense table, arranging them carefully so the logos faced outward, as though presentation still mattered more than place. That was the moment the courtroom fully understood why she was there. 3 nights earlier, Madison Ashford had left an exclusive club after consuming multiple cocktails. She chose to drive. She crossed into the wrong lane. She crashed into a historic building that had stood since the 19th century, damaging stonework that could never be replaced. She did not stop. She reversed, fled, and accelerated through city streets at reckless speeds. When police finally stopped her, she refused to exit the vehicle. She locked the doors. She began recording, narrating the encounter to an audience of followers, as if it were content rather than consequence. And when officers gained access, she lashed out. Her blood alcohol level measured nearly twice the legal limit. But Madison arrived at court believing the outcome had already been decided. Appear, wait, leave. Her father, a billionaire whose name opened doors and closed cases, had solved every problem before it ever reached her hands. Charges dismissed, records sealed, errors smoothed away through influence and quiet conversations. Consequence was something that happened to other people. Judge Caprio watched her examine her nails, clearly disengaged. "Good afternoon, Ms. Ashford," he said. She glanced up briefly. Not acknowledgement, not respect, Just dismissal. He opened the file slowly, deliberately, allowing silence to speak where words did not need to rush. You are charged with driving under the influence, he said. You caused extensive damage to a historic structure. You fled the scene. You led officers on a dangerous pursuit. You resisted arrest and assaulted an officer. These are serious charges. Madison glanced back at her phone. She asked. Silence filled the room. The judge set down his pen. She shrugged. Usually. How many times had systems bent before this moment? How many warnings had gone unheeded because money stood between action and accountability? These charges carry the possibility of prison, the judge said. Madison laughed softly. That is not going to happen, she replied. This is not theater, Judge Caprio said, his voice firm. Evidence followed. Footage played. The crash, the escape, the chase. Near misses that could have ended lives. The courtroom watched in silence as reckless choices unfolded frame by frame. Then the body camera footage. Commands given calmly. Refusals spoken loudly. A name invoked as leverage. A belief that power could override law. And then the strike. When the video ended, the room remained still. Officer Sarah Chen stood to speak. 12 years of service etched into her composure. A faint bruise still visible. Her voice steady, controlled. She spoke of dignity, of doing her job, of being treated as disposable by someone who believed wealth erased humanity. I have a daughter, she said. She understands that money does not make someone better. Madison rolled her eyes. Gasps followed. Texts were read aloud. Messages filled with laughter, indifference, and certainty that consequences would never arrive. Not fear. Not remorse. Entitlement. The judge closed the file. This courtroom does not answer to your last name, he said. For the first time, Madison had nothing to say, because some lessons come late, and some moments cannot be bought away. If you believe accountability should apply to everyone, regardless of wealth or influence, subscribe for more courtroom stories where privilege meets justice.